The cultivation of a life well lived requires you to roll up your sleeves and get your hands dirty. And you should want to, because it's your life. And it's your children's life, it's your family's life. You should want to be radically awake to what is going on and what is not currently working and what you deeply, deeply desire for yourself and for your family, what you deeply desire, what you envision and what you know can be possible and what you decide to lean in and go towards. That is important. Packing a knapsack and just being driven away via fear through some kind of idealized notion of a utopia somewhere else, in my opinion, is a setup for failure. Hey everyone. Welcome to Flourish in the Foreign, the podcast that elevates and affirms the voices and stories of Black women living and thriving abroad, while also exploring just the transformational power of living abroad and looking at wellness through the lens of living abroad and how moving to a different space and place can help you live your best life. I'm your host, Christine Job. Yeah, I am a Black American expat, immigrant, whatever you would have you, living here in Spain, currently based in Barcelona. I am a business strategist that helps Black women and women of color leverage their talents and their expertise into viable and sustainable online businesses so that they can pursue their dreams of living abroad while being professionally fulfilled and financially abundant. Yes, yes, yes. Welcome back to the show. And if you're new, hey, this is a new year and I took a little bit of time off unexpectedly, so thanks for riding with me. But now I'm back, and this new year, 2021, is going to be quite exceptional for all of you. Now, first things first, just thank you so much to everyone who has been listening to the podcast and has just been supporting the podcast from day one or whenever you discover the podcast. You guys are so down and so dope, and I just appreciate all of you. Now, looking into 2021, I have a bunch of things lined up, which I've been teasing for months, but y'all know it's a one-woman show, so, it gets done and it gets launched when it's possible. And to that end, I'm really looking forward to working with people to put on this here podcast and really, making it not a one-woman show. And the way that I can do that is through your support. So let's go through the ways you can support this here podcast. The first way you can support Flourish in the Foreign is by becoming a Patreon member of this here podcast. Go to www.patreon.com/flourishforeign. Thank you so much to the people that have already become Patreons. I appreciate you. And since the last time I chatted with you, I actually have new Patreons, and let me shout y'all out now. Thank you so much, Christina and Chars, for becoming the latest Patreons of Flourish in the Foreign. I appreciate y'all deeply. Thank you so, so much. The second way to support Flourish in the Foreign is by Cash Apping the podcast. Now, Cash App is a cool way for you to basically tip the podcast. It's a tip jar. So after you hear an episode and you're like, wow, that was really dope and really amazing, it's really helpful, you can go ahead and tip the podcast. And you can do so via Cash App at $Flourish Foreign. And shout out to the latest people who have Cash App the podcast. Thank you so much, Adrian, for Cash Apping the podcast. I appreciate you very, very much. Thank you so much for your contribution. The third way for you to support Flourish in the Foreign is by purchasing an item for the podcast via our Amazon wish list. I created an Amazon wish list of just some equipment upgrades that the podcast needs and desires, and it is available to you by going to www.flourishintheforeign.com/resources. You can check out the Amazon wish list. Shout out to Barry of Podcasts in Color, who purchased some really nice and amazing headphones for the podcast via our Amazon wish list. Thank you so much, Barry. That was amazing and deeply, deeply appreciated. If you would like to contribute something that you know is definitely going to help the quality of the podcast, the production of the podcast, the efficiency of production of the podcast, definitely take a look at the Amazon wish list. The fourth way for you to support Flourish in the Foreign is by sharing this podcast. Yes, you have to share. You can't just keep it to yourself. Now, I'm talking about sharing, yes, with your family and your friends, but also with your associations, your sororities, your universities, your alum networks, because there's a lot of people who are wanting and they're desiring to hear these stories. So please share them. Share these stories and share this podcast. If you have a favorite blog or magazine, let them know that they should check out Flourish in the Foreign. That is the way that more people can hear these stories of Black women. I am incredibly passionate about elevating these stories, Black women's stories, our stories, because for so long and for too long, our stories were just not told. That's why people look at me crazy and some of my guests crazy when they hear that we live in a different country. We live somewhere where they think Black people don't live. And we've been living here for a long time, and that we've decided to create a life for ourselves. It's not that it's new or fashionable. It's just that people don't talk about it and there's no representation. And so the aim of this podcast is to elevate these stories, affirm these stories, be just positive representation to generations to come and generations that are here. So share the goodness, share it. One way you can do it immediately is, now that you're listening to the podcast, go ahead and take a screenshot of this podcast, tag the podcast at Flourish Foreign, and write a little bit like, I'm listening to this podcast, you should listen to it too, and share it with Twitter, share it with Facebook, and share it with Instagram. The fifth way for you to support this podcast is if you have a business or organization that's in alignment with this podcast, services and products that you feel that this audience of just incredibly amazing, internationally minded Black women and women of color need to hear about, come on down and place an ad with this here podcast. You can go ahead and do that by going to the website www.flourishintheforeign.com and go to the contact tab and hit me up. Let me know what you're thinking about, what you want to do, and we can work something out. All right, the final way for you to support this here podcast that you love so much is making sure that you are following this here podcast on Instagram, on Twitter, and on YouTube at Flourish Foreign. Be sure to be subscribed to the podcast and the YouTube channel, and make sure that you are leaving a 5-star rating and a review for the podcast. All right, I just gave you guys 6 different ways to support Flourish in the Foreign, and I hope that you chose to support Flourish in the Foreign in at least one way today. All right, on to the next story. All right, so this episode is going to be a little bit different, so rock with me. We're going back to the stories next week, but I just wanted to talk to y'all because I felt like it's really important for me to reiterate what is the mission of Flourish in the Foreign. Flourish in the Foreign is, of course, really about showcasing the stories of Black women living and thriving abroad. But even more than that, it's really about exploring how living abroad can really transform your life. And I really want to get down to nitty gritty of it, because I see sometimes on Facebook and other kind of forums, and people are just like, pack a knapsack and head out and everything will fall into place and you can manifest it. So, and hey, I believe in manifestation. I believe in visioning. I believe in divine alignment and divine timing. I believe in all of that. I also believe in being intentional. And I think sometimes what people mistake with moving abroad and the amazingness that it can bring is that it's just a new place, and therefore the magic is just being in a different place. And that's not true. I'm here to burst that bubble. When I'm talking about the magic that living abroad can create in your life, it is a co-created magic, right? It is not just about a place necessarily, but it's about the person you decide to bring to that place, the version of yourself you decide to bring to that place. Okay? Just because you show up to Panama or Colombia or Ghana doesn't mean everything is going to magically fall into place. No, it's not. I'm going to go ahead and be very provocative and just be like, no, it's not. It's really important as we start this new year, and some of you are thinking about making the leap abroad this year, or you're seriously thinking about preparing yourselves to make that leap, or you're already abroad and you're in the throes of adjusting and really making it work and cultivating a life well lived for yourself. I'm here to let you know that the magic that I talk about in living abroad is actually found in the dissonance and in the contrast. Hear me out. It's literally in the fact that things are different and unfamiliar and uncomfortable that actually creates space for you to decide and be an intentional co-creator in your experience. It gives you the fertile ground for you to cultivate a life of meaning, an intentional life for yourself. Let's start from the very beginning. So when you decide you want to move abroad, I always tell everyone that asks me, when they say, well, how do you decide on a country and how do you decide? A lot of this, in my opinion, it means nothing. Okay, these magazine articles that say these are the best places for expats, or this is where you should go. It means nothing to me. You know why? Because it doesn't matter if you move to Portugal or Tanzania or New Zealand if you are moving blindly and without a true sense of self. It doesn't mean anything. Do you honestly think that you moving from LA or Atlanta to Ghana to Tanzania or Portugal is going to magically change your life just because what the cost of living might be different and food is different? No, I'm here to really burst your bubble. And I'm saying this because I want you to win, and I want you to truly thrive abroad, and I want you to truly flourish abroad. Too many of us have been just on autopilot in our lives. And certain circumstances have really shaken us, or the dissonant feeling that things are just not right, and you've been enduring and you're enduring, and it builds up and it compounds, and you just can't do it anymore. And you know there's a different way to live. And so you're like, I gotta go, which is fine. But those feelings are trying to wake you up to your life. Those feelings are trying to wake you up to the choice that you have for your life. And so, like I said, living abroad is amazing because it creates fertile ground in the contrast, in things being different. In things being different and being quote unquote foreign, you are radically awake to your existence, because you have to be. You don't know where anything is. You may not speak the language. You don't know the currency conversion. And you're just like, what's happening? Everything's closed. Everything's open. There's a holiday. There's something going on. You don't know how to do anything. You are radically awake to your life. You're not a zombie. You're not just going through the motions because you literally can't, right? For survival, but also because everything is so new. Your eyes are permanently wide open for at least the first year. That is a fertile ground, but it's only fertile ground, and you can only really come to understand that the contrast and the differences, that is a fertile ground if you are being intentional in your move, because too many people move someplace and it's just like, this wasn't great. Colombia or Turkey, whatever. And you're expecting these places to just give you what you need, but you haven't even identified what you need, right? You're expecting these countries to be a balm to you in your life, but you haven't even taken the time to understand what is going on with you. What is it that you need? How much of the things that were going on in your life that were dissonant and you just hated or disliked was really environmental, and how much of that was you? Because if it's you, it doesn't matter if you move to Portugal, to Ghana, to South Africa, to Thailand, to Australia, or to Brazil. You're bringing yourself. And it's really important that if you are serious about creating an intentional life in any place, right? Because you could do it in where you are right now. But if you are deciding to uproot yourself and plant yourself somewhere else, it behooves you to take some responsibility and some accountability for yourself. Having a beautiful, amazing, aligned life, flourishing in the foreign, is not about Instagram pictures, all right? It just isn't. It's the same thing as vacationing abroad is different from living abroad. And the cultivation of a life well lived requires you to roll up your sleeves and get your hands dirty. And you should want to, because it's your life and it's your children's lives, it's your family's life. You should want to be radically awake to what is going on and what is not currently working, and what you deeply, deeply desire for yourself and for your family, what you deeply desire, what you envision and what you know can be possible, and what you decide to lean in and go towards. That is important. Packing a knapsack and just being driven away via fear through some kind of idealized notion of a utopia somewhere else, in my opinion, is a setup for failure. Because no matter where you move to, like I said, you bring yourself. And you may find yourself attracting the same situations that you had in Atlanta, but now you live in Croatia, and you will be dumbfounded and you'll be like, everywhere is trash. And it's not. It's you. It's you, sis. So it's really important that we have this kind of conversation, and that you guys understand, like, Flourish in the Foreign is about not only showcasing these stories, but like I said, it's about exploring living abroad through the lens of wellness. And wellness is financial wellness, it's professional wellness, it is mental wellness, physical, emotional, it is spiritual wellness. And these kinds of evolutions and this kind of care takes time to really understand yourself. And what oftentimes people are rejecting from their home country is perhaps a lack of time and a lack of prioritization of the self-care. And like, self-care and wellness is not just bath bombs and crystals. I like them. They're amazing, but it's deeper than that. It's deeper. And I want us to go deeper. And this is what this platform is about. It's about truly understanding what is that you need to create a life well lived. As Black women across the diaspora, a lot of times we have been deprived the time and the space to think and to breathe. For generations, we have been kept busy through forced labor, through undervalued labor, through everything, through hoop jumping, through all these things where we couldn't even catch a breath. We couldn't even really consider. We couldn't really contemplate because we were just trying to make it. We were trying to get to the next thing. And this is a space for us to take a breath and really consider the things that we have wanted. Are they things that we really want, or have we been programmed to want? And if we take the time to understand what is not working for us currently and what is working for us currently, and understand out of the things that is not currently working for us, how much of that we must take accountability for. And we must say, I am part of this co-creation. Perhaps I have decided to, buy the lie that I must go about my life this way. Therefore, I have set up my life to value these certain things and want these certain things, or decide that my health in all of its various capacities is not as important as something else. So it's important that we take personal responsibility. And in that accountability is the power. Once you understand what are your true values, what is your visions for your life, you can take that. And then you can go ahead and look at different countries and stuff like that. But you have a firm foundation, right? You understand what you are looking to cultivate. And then what you're looking to cultivate and how you define a place being suitable for you to cultivate that life is obviously individualized. It is. Some people can build their best life in Albania. Others need to be in Kenya. Others want to be in Cyprus. Others think Moscow is a place. Okay, that's just how it goes. But you must understand that. You must understand that. And also, it's very vitally important that you don't go into a place looking for a place to save you or to be a balm to you. It's very vital for you to go in and know that you are there to cultivate community, knowing that you are there to be a part, an engaged and a caring, considerate part of community in whatever way that means to you. Maybe that means being involved locally in politics. Some places you can't, but there's so many other ways to be involved in a community. There's so many ways for you to be a reciprocal participant in community. And too often, I believe that sometimes people, especially with passport privilege, I'll say, will go to places expecting the place just wow me, right? Just heal me. I want to go to Costa Rica and just fix me. Everything is amazing. And not realize that those kind of sentiments are extremely selfish, right? Like, what are you talking about? This is a co-creative experience, and you need to think about what you can bring. Not what you can change or fix, but what you can bring as a participant in a community, right? That's this different energy, and that's really important. And that's what Flourish in the Foreign is about as well. This is about really thriving. It's really about looking at life in a holistic manner and doing the deep dive and using the power of choice to create that wherever you want. Knowing that it's obviously very possible. You see all the women that I've had, and I have so many more, it's possible. But to have a life that is thriving and that one that you're not just enduring requires you to be an active participant in your life. So if you haven't been an active participant in your life thus far, this is the time to really get awake to it. Don't wait until you go somewhere else for your eyes get wide open. This is the time for you to really start being an active participant in your life, understanding. A lot of times when we don't like something, we numb ourselves, even if it's just by compartmentalizing, we numb ourselves. And I'm inviting you all to not numb yourself, to feel what you're feeling and understand what your body is trying to tell you, understand what your spirit is trying to tell you so that you can create a life well lived in this next chapter, so that you can take that information that your body and your spirit is trying to tell you and you can really implement it. Yeah, that's what it's about. It's about transformation, honey. That's what this here podcast is all about. It's about showcasing how living abroad has transformed these women's lives and in the many different aspects of their wellness. Some women, as you guys heard, their lives have been transformed by living abroad through their professional wellness and the opportunities that were afforded to them or the opportunities they were able to engage in as entrepreneurs. Some, it's financial wellness, the amount of money they were able to save through geo arbitrage or to make just through a higher salary or through a situation in which they didn't have to pay income tax or whatever, right? Or they were allowed to invest and save very rigorously. Some of the ladies have talked to you about how their physical wellness had been transformed by living abroad, by finding healing for things that they weren't able to find in their home country, or in the process of bringing life into this world and their experience and how it differed from their home country and how well they were taken care of, right? Or mentally, and how people were able to really heal mentally from being outside of a system that they deemed oppressive, outside of assumptions and beliefs on how to live life, and being in a lifestyle in which really catered to their mental wellness. That is important. That is so, so vitally important. And that is what Flourish in the Foreign is all about. That's what I'm going to be bringing to you guys across all platforms. And I'm really excited about it. I'm really, really excited about it. We're going to be talking about how to get, stay, and thrive abroad, but we're going to be talking about it with intentionality. So if you're trying to listen to this podcast or you're going to be on the platforms and you're like, I just want to know what's the best place to go or the utopia for Black women, and I want to know the fastest place and the cheapest place, like this is not the place for you, because this is about intentionality. For a lot of us that are listening to this podcast, getting abroad is not the issue. Y'all think it is. I say this all the time. But depending on where your passport's from, getting abroad is usually not the issue. But staying abroad is, right? But that's the thing. It's not just about staying and enduring. You could have stayed home for that. It's about unlocking the possibilities for life. I have to stress this again because I believe this very, very deeply. There is a magic. There is fertile ground in being able to go abroad and decide who you are and how you're going to live your life, and having the space, because everybody else is like, you're other. You aren't necessarily expected to be like everyone else. Eventually, I suppose, assimilate somewhat, and of course, always be respectful, but you are other. And in that other, in being foreign in a different place, I think is really potent. It's different from being othered in your home country, right? Where people just like, you just don't matter. Not to make light of it, but it's like, it's different because you are allowed the space to do you. Do you understand what I'm saying? You're allowed the space to do you because they're like, you're not Turkish or you're not Kenyan, so you're going to do you. That's what you do, right? There's space in that. There is power in that ability to decide what life you want and how you want to be and how you want to move. It's incredible. And it should not be taken cavalierly because it's not sustainable. If you're moving from fear, if you're moving from desperation, it's not going to sustain you. And you don't just convert that magically into something better. I think it's really important to plant the seeds that you want. It's important to plant the seeds of the fruit that you want to harvest. So don't tell me you can plant seeds out of fear and desperation and get something beautiful and sweet. Fear and desperation can let us know and make us awake to things that need to be moved, but then we must transmute that energy and plant the seeds of thriving, of living, right? Flourishing. Yes, that's what we're all about here. That's what we're about. So if you're about it, then yay. And if you're not, that's all right. There's plenty of forums about getting abroad quickly or whatever have you that are for you, and I love you anyway. But this is what this podcast and this platform is all about. I'm really excited to unleash some of the amazing things I've been working very hard on, y'all, very hard, to all of you. And I'm really excited to really expand the community. With that being said, if you have not joined the email list for Flourish in the Foreign, you need to, because I'm unleashing a lot of cool stuff. And I'm going to first tell the email list, and then I will probably tell the podcast audience, but sometimes I forget. So you want to be on the email list because I'm doing a lot of cool things. I'm having talks on Clubhouse. So if you're on Clubhouse, come on. I might be actually giving out an invitation to Clubhouse via my email list. I don't know. Y'all have to be a part of my email list to know if I'm doing that. So if you're trying to get on Clubhouse, you have an iPhone, and you downloaded the Clubhouse app and did everything you're supposed to, maybe I have something for you. Maybe. I don't know. You'd have to be on my email list. So go ahead and do that. Also, if you are ready to go abroad, I have some really interesting things that I'm offering right now. First, I am launching a course that I'm super excited about, y'all. I really am. Check it. I am launching a course called Flourish in the Foreign. It is really for people who are in the preparation stages of going abroad. We are really talking about what I've been talking about this entire episode, which is getting clear and really understanding what you want out of your experience. So we're going to talk about manifestation and visioning, because these are things that I used to get abroad and to create my life abroad. We're also going to be talking about skills assessment and how to determine what skills you have to go abroad to sustain yourself. You know, if you're not independently wealthy, that is, all right? If you are independently wealthy, become a patron of my podcast. Girl, what you talking about? Let's talk. But if you're not independently wealthy and you're like, how am I going to sustain myself abroad? I'm going to break down basically how I get down and how I've been very successful professionally in going abroad. If you guys have heard my episode about my story in going abroad, but also I think in the episode about how to get a job abroad, I talk about how I am really good at networking, but the thing about networking is being a resource, but it's also about understanding what skills people need, even if they don't know what they need, knowing how to pitch and sell yourself. And so regardless if you want to get a job abroad, if you want to get your own business abroad, which I'm a big advocate for, which you guys know, it's amazing. I'm going to be talking about those things, and I'm going to be talking about starting your own business abroad. It is a 5-week course, and it's going to be live, but then after the live course, it is going to be available for anyone who wants to go through the course, and it's going to be amazing. It's going to be lit because I got a lot to say on everything. And I know sometimes on the podcast, like I'm real chill. And I usually allow my guests to like just take the episode because I'm a huge fan of all of my guests. In some kind of way, they have all just awed me. They have totally inspired me, which is why the podcast is very guest centered, because I think they're all amazing and wonderful. And I don't really want to mess it up. I just want you to listen to them. But as you can hear from this episode, I have a lot to say. I have lots of thoughts, and I'm pretty good at helping people go abroad and to sustain themselves abroad. I give really good advice. I'm not trying to like toot my own horn, but that's what it is. Check for me. That's what the people are saying. So I decided to do a course because that's a way for me to work with and help and talk to more people at the same time, because I do work with my clients one-on-one. But, I only can take so many clients because I'm doing so many things. So if you're interested in my course, and I want to see y'all there for sure, definitely check out the course via the website, www.flourishintheforeign.com/resources. You can get a link there and can sign up. And of course, it'll be a link in all of the resources and all of the social media bios as well. So come and let's get started because, I'm a big believer in intentions. My thing is that intentionality changes everything, right? Everything is a wish and a hope. Everything else is just is dreamy until you have the intention, until you develop your why. This is what this course is about. It is about the nitty-gritty things you need to do to go abroad and to do so successfully, to actually get on the road to flourish in the foreign, period. It is not about these are all things I could have Googled. This is about doing the inner work and the outer work. Right? Googling is great, but sometimes you don't push yourself, and sometimes you're not honest with yourself about what you want. And sometimes you're just looking for places where other people are, right? So that you're like, well, everyone else is moving to insert Portugal, Tanzania, New Zealand, and I'm not hating on any of these places because they're all wonderful. But I want you to make a game plan that's best for you and your family, or whoever you're taking, you and your dog and your cat and whoever. That's what it needs to be. All right. That's what this course is. And so I'm really excited. So come on down. And if you are ready to go abroad and you're thinking how do I start a business to go abroad, or how do I scale my business to go abroad, definitely hit me up. I do have some more availability for one-on-one clients, and I help Black women and women of color leverage their talents and their expertise into viable and sustainable online businesses. Yes, I do. And this helps them. This helps you become professionally fulfilled, which is so critical. You can't just be moving someplace and feel like a bump on a log, in my opinion. No. And also financially abundant. Again, you can't just be moving someplace and be like, oh, it's so cheap. But then you try to get a job there and you realize that the salary is commiserate with the cheapness. You know what I'm saying? So if you try to really be financially abundant in whatever way that means to you, and you want to thrive while you're living abroad, and you want to take it into a business, hit me up. I've been a business strategist now for, 9 years. This is crazy. Hit me up and let's chat. And also check out the YouTube channel, because I've actually been dropping a lot of different videos that talk about all different aspects of living abroad and having a business and starting a business abroad. So check it out. Go to the YouTube and hit me up if you're ready. All right. Big thanks to Zachary Higgs for producing the music for this here podcast. If you are looking for someone to produce music for your next project, I highly recommend Zachary because he is amazing. And to be honest, I kind of just asked him and was like, hey, I'm looking for some music. I want to sound like this. And he had this back to me in like 24 hours. And then we like talked a little bit about it. And then he gave me like the final in like maybe 48 hours after that. Like, it was really fast. I'm not saying he's going to do that for you. He might. I actually don't know what his usual timeline is, but he is professional and he's dope. So if you're looking for music for your next project, hit him up. All right. That is it for this week's podcast episode. Be on the lookout for the next episode. I have a little treat for y'all. So there you go. That's the tease. All right. Until next time, go abroad and cultivate a life well lived. On the next episode of Flourish in the Foreign.
Dating can be interesting just because, one, there's the language and there's the cultural distinctions. One is the language. For instance, for me, dating in Spanish is not necessarily difficult because my Spanish is fairly good, but yet many of the nuances to who I am are all in English, if that makes sense. I always feel like if I'm dating someone in the Spanish language, do they really get to know like the authentic, complete me? Because I feel like there's still, even though my Spanish is fairly good, there's still a part of me that is, I almost feel like boxed within the English language, if that makes sense. And then there are various cultural issues. When I think about the whole idea of masculinity and chivalry, particularly in Africa and South and Central America, men can be very, very chivalrous in ways that I never really experienced in the United States of America.